Welcome to Matt Folio, and today we'll be talking about why Airbnb is down over 15% after announcing their earnings today, as well as why SMCI is performing so much higher to the upside after their earnings. And lastly, we'll be talking about Caterpillar and Uber that happened before the market opened today. And last but not least, we'll be talking about yesterday's crash and how you can profit off of that and make some purchases on a big discount. So let's first and foremost talk about Airbnb and what happened here. So Airbnb, as we're looking today, it was up 5% and buyers were stepping in. And then the earnings happened and we did not expect to have such a poor performance. And now it's down 15% in after hours. And so kind of the news here we're seeing from CEO Chesky is that number one, the big headline is that they're warning of a slower US demand with Airbnb. And a couple of things I can attribute to that is number one, we can take a look at their EPS. Their earnings per share was 0.86 versus 0.92 expected, as well as their revenue. And their revenue was not too bad. It actually won by 0.01, but then again, their earnings per share is pretty much everything. And then the guidance that Chesky was talking about, and that is that slower demand we're seeing within the US markets for Airbnb. But their revenue did increase 11% year over year, and they're reporting a net income of $555 million. But yes, that is down 15% from $650 million or 0.98 per share, literally the year ago quarter. So that's a year over year change. I personally think Airbnb as a company fundamentally is great. I think their business model makes sense. But then again, you do have those outside catalysts like U.S. demand. And if right now, economically, things are not too hot with the recent employment numbers and the hiring rates, it's expected that Airbnb will not perform well. And that's why that's a company I personally try to stay away from because it's so reliant on consumer demand. And if consumer demand is just not there, then companies like Airbnb will struggle the most out of all of the companies that you can possibly invest in. So the next big one to talk about, and this is a huge favorite of all the GameStop / meme stock / Nvidia / AI hype lovers, is SMCI, Supermicro. So Supermicro they're announcing their earnings at 5 p.m. and right now it's 4. But I do see a couple things that, number one, they've talked about right on the post closing bell. And number one, it's looking good so far. I mean, after hours, they're up 8%, they're up 2%, and as well as 2% on the day as well. If we look here, the one big thing that they did announce was a stock split, a 10-to-1 split, as well as revenue. They beat revenue. Their revenue is looking strong, and as you know, when it comes to AI stocks, everyone just goes bonkers for them. I mean, I know their call is in exactly 20 minutes from right now, but I will assure you guys that it's more than likely that their numbers will be pretty solid, given how Nvidia's been performing. I think other companies are now trying to play catch up, and Supermicro is amongst many of those. The only thing I can think of is geopolitical conflicts. That's a never a good thing for SMCI. We saw Pelosi sold about 6 months ago, I believe. And they're saying that war with Taiwan is imminent. Others are saying it's not. But we do know if that does occur, then SMCI is on a very shaky foundation. And that's one thing that you should look out for as a catalyst when it comes to investing in this stock. That is all for today. One last thing I want to talk about before ending this video is what should you invest in right now off this crash? How can you capitalize off of it? I personally think if you didn't buy yesterday, it's pretty much too late and the uptrend continues. But I do think that maybe before the Fed makes their interest rates, it all comes down to interest rates. Then again, let's remember that many people are speculating that the Fed would step in, but they don't step in for the stock market. They step in for other things that are fiscal related. And yeah, I don't think that the Fed is going to make some changes with what's already planned for rate cuts this year. But then again, with elections around the corner, maybe Powell will listen to one of the running presidents, Trump's recommendation to not cut their rates until he's in office if he's elected. But yeah, I think as of right now, the big cuts that we're all waiting to see will happen closer to election season. I think maybe 2 or 3 FOMCs from now is my prediction. But then again, don't quote me, I'm not too sure. But yeah, that's all for today. If you want other quick closing bell update videos throughout your week, I highly recommend you like and subscribe. And don't forget that I also post live updates on X, where I talk about earnings, I talk about different types of investing news, and it happens live for you, unlike these videos, so you can know in the very moment what's unfolding and what is not.